Lucian Evans 1. The young man's eyes opened to the dark expanse of his room's ceiling. He blinked a few times before gradually rising and settling into a seated position. The bed provided comfort to his frail body, which could be injured by even the slightest physical effort. It had been personally designed to accommodate his delicate constitution. The exquisite blue sheets matched the color of his eyes, a rarity in Japan, and attracted significant attention. His gaze shifted towards the massive 54-inch TV that was still broadcasting the latest news and updates, casting a faint shadow over his figure. Today, the CEO of Evans Corporation is finalizing a 5-year deal with the Fourth European Arcology. While Evans Corporation had previously established agreements with the 4 Tokyo Arcologies 3 years ago, their ventures are now extending beyond the borders of the country. Yes, as Ms. Kawasaki mentioned, Mr. Kyuhei Suzuki, the CEO of Evans Corporation, is already immersed in his new project. This endeavor aims to consistently supply fresh vegetables and fruits, not only to our esteemed nation of Japan but to the global community as well. Let's now dive into the interview conducted with Mr. Suzuki on the day of the corporation's announcement. The view of the newscasters shifted, and a new video played on the TV, featuring a middle-aged man. He possessed good looks and had similar blue eyes to the young man who was watching. The man was dressed in an expensive suit, standing on an elevated platform, flanked by various corporate figures as he delivered the speech in front of a multitude of reporters. Our commitment extends to providing them with our services as well. We're relentlessly striving for a world of peace and devoid of war, allowing everyone to relish the fresh, deserving produce once more. While it may come at a cost, we're dedicated to minimizing expenses for our synthetic equipment, aiming to make naturally grown fruits and vegetables affordable even for the less privileged. Looking ahead, let's focus on the future. I extend my gratitude to the Prime Mayor of the 4th Arcology for their collaboration with our company. As he spoke, an elderly man with graying hair stepped onto the stage, holding a stack of papers in his hands. He slid them onto the desk and pushed them forward. The middle-aged man picked up the pen, signed the papers, and then they shook each other's hands. To a great cooperation, they both spoke simultaneously, their hands clasped in a handshake. The video abruptly ended as the image transitioned back to the news anchors. The young man's gaze seemed slightly weird as he fixed his eyes on the TV. As soon as the interview ended, he promptly switched off the TV, plunging the room into complete darkness. He reflected on the entire news segment, his mind retracing the events. Kyuhei Suzuki, a man revered with high esteem in today's busyness landscape. His influence stretched not only across all of Asia but also reached Europe and South America, where he's hailed as the emerging icon of the horticulture industry. Following the World War III, planet's affliction have given rise to an era of genetically modified fruits and vegetables that lacked flavor and quality. Nevertheless, under the right circumstances and environment, their natural cultivation was possible. However, with the sun hidden behind thick clouds, and the rains of acid, this task remains arduous and financially demanding. This is precisely why Evans Corporation has emerged as one of the leading symbols of the horticulture industry. They've ingeniously engineered and established a synthetic environment within specially designed domes, capable of reproducing fresh vegetables and fruits using an undisclosed technology. This groundbreaking advancement sparked a widespread search for the exact details of this discovery. Nonetheless, the CEO of Evans Corporation was not a dumb fellow, he safeguarded the entirety of the discovery as a corporate secret. His charisma, coupled with his unwavering commitments, has fostered immense trust. This very reason has propelled him to his current position, one of the prominent provider of fresh produce, exerting a near monopolistic hold over Asia, Europe, and South America. And the young man happened to be the only son of that very man. Lucian Evans. Lucian's mother was from Europe, specifically Romanian arcology. Their paths crossed in what could only be described as a deeply romantic encounter, leading to the couple falling in love, and immediately getting married. Soon after, they had Lucian. Unfortunately, Lucian's mother passed away shortly after giving birth to him. Tragically, he was also diagnosed with a severe genetic disease. Kyuhei Suzuki, a man of unwavering determination and resolute spirit, navigated through these trials. He weathered the storm of losing his wife, simultaneously dealing with the challenges his son's medical conditions brought. Admirably, he neither neglected his son nor placed blame on him. He poured all the care and affection that one could wish for from both a father and a mother onto his son. He cherished his son dearly, recognizing that this was the most important and invaluable legacy his wife had left behind. Lucian let out a sigh. Even after 18 years since her passing, he hadn't considered another woman or tried dating any. It was evident that his father truly loved his mother. He was truly a family guy. Lucian extended his hand towards the pillow and pulled out a smartphone from beneath it. Tapping on the device, the screen expanded. He fiddled with the device, and soon after, the door to his room swung open, revealing a young woman dressed in a maid uniform, who entered the room. Silently, she approached the young man with a composed expression. Her gaze held a hint of curiosity, yet it remained mostly professional. She raised the bedsheet and leaned over Lucian, her actions deliberate and composed, as she began the process of gently undressing him. Before long, his attire transformed from pajamas and a t-shirt into a more comfortable ensemble that suited him well. The young man's appearance was far from ordinary, in fact, he was exceptionally appealing to look at. Yet, in a ruined world, beauty was inconsequential to most. Lucian's blue eyes met the brown eyes of the maid, as she completed fastening the final button on his shirt and met his gaze. "Breakfast will be ready shortly, young master," the maid informed, stepping back and offering a subtle bow. Her graceful figure moved with refined precision, as if honed to perfection. "I don't think I'll eat anything today. I don't have much of an appetite," Lucian said, his voice soft, mellow, and pleasing to hear. "That can't happen, young master. I've been instructed by the master to ensure you're fed, even if it means I have to be forceful about it. If you'd like me to practically force-feed you, then please decline my courteous attempt to serve you," the maid retorted in a single breath. Lucian looked at her with his pleading blue eyes, yet the maid's unwavering stare remained unaffected as she stood her ground resolutely. Fine. Unable to sway her determination, he relentlessly agreed to eat breakfast. "It'll be prepared shortly. Please take your medicine in the meantime," advising that, the maid swiftly left the lavish room, the door closing almost noiselessly behind her. Once the maid left, Lucian found himself alone in the room once more. He let out a slight sigh, succumbing to the sense of boredom that had settled in once again. It's so boring. Life was boring. It became even more so when you're unable to fully utilize all your limbs for their intended purpose. The most Lucian could manage was walking a few meters. Any more than that, and he would become sick and faint. He was afflicted with cystic fibrosis, a life-threatening genetic disease that damages the lungs and digestive system. Apparently, his mother had also been diagnosed with the same disease, although her condition wasn't as severe as his. However, possibly due to being born prematurely, Lucian was more susceptible to illness. Even minor changes could significantly impact his health. But that's not all. He has also been diagnosed with alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, a condition that increases the risk of lung and other diseases. When combined with cystic fibrosis, it results in CFALD, a condition where even slight pollution, dust, or smoke can pose life-threatening risks. Thankfully, he was born into a family that could provide him with the finest treatment available, along with top-tier air filters in a home that was meticulously cleaned every hour. But that didn't do anything to alleviate his boredom and loneliness. Despite being trapped in this huge house and having everything catered to him, he couldn't shake off the sense of emptiness. He couldn't find the sense of fulfillment or achievement that he so desired. The reality is disappointing, and he isn't even certain when his life might come to an end, given that even minor malfunctions and environmental changes could potentially be fatal. He would be lying if he denied feeling scared. Lucian sighed and turned on the TV once more. The previous news had been replaced by a new anime that was playing on the TV channel. The anime featured a new game, seemingly a DMMO-RPG, which had been gaining popularity over the past few years. Give some power stones to motivate me. Any and all suggestions are welcome. There will be a chapter every 3-4 days, after I'm done dumping the few chapters I've written. I would very much appreciate a review. 6 comments 0 vote. Lucian Evans 2. DMMO-RPG, Dive Massive Multiplayer Role-Playing Games, were a type of multiplayer RPG where you can experience it in virtual world. It used a complex layer of technologies to utilize this feat and allows a person to connect to digital world directly, thus creating the era of DMMO-RPGs. Lucian watched the TV with a hint of amusement. The screen displayed a group of other Wolders, exploring the world of Yggdrasil, a world governed by the rules of game. These individuals were trapped within the game, and now had to defeat a boss known as World Enemy to secure their escape. The anime proved to be quite entertaining as Lucian kept his focus on the screen, momentarily forgetting about taking his medications. His gaze remained glued to the TV. Spending the day watching TV or simply wandering around the house was nothing new for him, however, stumbling upon something genuinely enjoyable was a rarity. Usually, he had to search obscure web histories to find anything that would be worthy of his precious, restricted time. He continued watching the anime as the first episode of the 20-part OVA came to an end. He let out a mixed sigh of amusement and curiosity. The game Yggdrasil was a 2-year-old DMMO-RPG that had taken the virtual world by storm in Japan. Yet, its impact wasn't confined to Japan alone, the game had spread its influence to numerous other countries. The rich arcologies were even hosting tournaments, allowing players to engage in live VR battles with others in person. These VR arenas, commonly referred to as V-renas, are widespread. They serve as the epicenter for various dueling and fighting games, drawing in crowds who want to watch an entertaining fight. These virtual battles can attract a significant audience. Some top-tier players are even able to garner endorsements from small businesses due to their popularity in the virtual world. DMMO-RPGs are extremely popular nowadays, and Yggdrasil is currently the most famous one, essentially synonymous with the genre. Anyone who knows about DMMO-RPGs is mostly familiar with Yggdrasil. Lucian had some knowledge about Yggdrasil, but he had never been interested in playing it. Although he had played a few DMMO-RPGs, Yggdrasil was not one of them. He believed that excessive traffic and popularity often made a game overrated. Despite hearing good things about the game, his skeptical nature always led him to the more obscure and rare indie DMMO-RPG titles. Furthermore, he wasn't particularly interested in multiplayer RPGs. However, he might change his opinion now, given that the OVA had piqued his curiosity about the game. Lucian took a shallow breath, experiencing a slight pain in his abdomen. Nevertheless, the discomfort was manageable for him. Gradually, he cast off his blanket and extended his legs, before rising and positioning himself near the edge of his bed. He retrieved a box of medicine from the nearby drawer, strategically placed within arm's reach of his bed. Taking out a blue pill, he promptly placed it in his mouth. The pill instantly dissolved, releasing a bitter liquid that trickled down his throat. After swallowing the pill, Lucian made his way towards the bathroom, where he proceeded to brush his teeth and wash his face, taking the opportunity to also tidy his hair. After leaving the bathroom, he walked slowly towards the living room, where the dining table was situated. Most days, he would wait for his breakfast in his room, but today he was feeling rather lively, perhaps it was due to watching the OVA, and now he was looking forward to playing the game. Walking through the modern, well-furnished, and finely crafted wooden corridor, he soon entered the living room. The moment he stepped into the expansive room, he noticed the maid cutting and peeling an apple for him. Her attention immediately shifted to him the instant she heard his footsteps. "What are you up to, young master?" she inquired, placing the peeled apple onto the plate before approaching him. She leaned in to offer support, but he gently pushed her away as he responded. "It's all right, I can manage to walk today. Yesterday was probably due to overstimulation that I fainted." The maid looked at him, her face finally revealing a flicker of emotion as her eyebrows furrowed in worry. "Are you sure?" she asked, hesitating about whether to believe his words or not. "Yes, believe me," but looking at his sincere smile and his eyes locking onto hers, she couldn't resist allowing him to proceed as he wished. She walked behind him as he headed towards the dining table where breakfast would be served. She was ready to support him should he feel weak, following behind him like a mother hen watching over her chick. "Do you really think I'm that pathetic?" Lucian asked, taking a seat on the soft chair specifically designed for optimal comfort. "No, master, you are not pathetic," the maid responded without a moment's hesitation. She didn't even need to think over that. "Really, I think I'm pretty pathetic." Lucian sighed as he picked up a piece of apple and started eating it. "You're not pathetic, master. You're simply dealing with physical illness, and it's not your fault that you were born with this condition. Nor is it your mother's fault," without any hesitations, the maid said. Lucian went silent as he ate the slices of apple with silent noises of chewing, the only thing remaining in the room. The maid opened her mouth, breaking the silence. Do you blame your mother for leaving you with this disease? Lucian was taken aback for a moment, as he never expected for her to ask something sensitive like this suddenly. However, after swallowing the apple he had in his mouth, he replied to her question. I don't blame mother. After all, she is the one who brought me into this world. Even if I was littered with disease, she is still the one responsible for my existence, so I would never blame her. Lucian then gave a slight smile as he continued. However, I do think that if she was alive, perhaps I would have felt a little better. After all, I would have someone who would shower me with her motherly love. Although I love Dad, and I appreciate his care and love for me, I would still love to have my mother, Lucian said with the same smile. His mouth curved up in slight arc, making him look like a prince as the glow of the lights inside the room illuminated his silky and smooth, slightly wet hair. His blue eyes were twinkling with a bit of moisture. Perhaps something had gotten stuck inside his eyes. Lucian was taken by surprise and had no time to wipe his eyes before his loyal maid gently hugged him. It's okay, master. Even without a mother, you have me. I'll give you all the love I can muster as your loyal maid. It's only natural for me to do my utmost for my dear master, the maid said, her words uninterrupted, as her ample bosom covered Lucian's head. He was used to being hugged like this by her. No one will say it's cringe, please. This was necessary for the story, believe me. Lucian simply hugged her back, a single tear escaping, and he smiled as the maid gently rubbed his hair. After they both calmed down, they separated. Lucian felt a bit embarrassed, while the maid was engaged in an internal struggle known only to her. Lucian picked up a piece of apple and resumed eating. This single apple was so expensive that most people couldn't afford it, but for him, it was an everyday luxury. Lucian gazed at his maid once more and asked, May, can you set up the DMMO-RPG, Yggdrasil for me? Are you intending to finally play that popular DMMO-RPG? She asked, puzzled. Although her master was a gamer, he had never shown interest in Yggdrasil. He always played unknown and obscure VR games that no one knew about. Yes, I saw the Yggdrasil's OVA. It was quite interesting, and I've also heard about a new expansion pack that added a lot of new features to the game. I think it's the perfect time to start playing. Maybe I can even get some good gacha rewards, Lucian commented while continuing to eat. Are you thinking of spending a lot of money on gacha games again? The maid asked, her expression showing a hint of concern. Yes, let me enjoy life while I'm still alive. Death will come for me eventually, sooner or later, Lucian said in a joking tone, though the melancholy in his eyes didn't go unnoticed by the maid. She felt a twinge of pain, but there was little she could do. She wasn't a god, nor a doctor who could provide solutions. She was just a maid, striving to be perfect for her unreliable master. As you wish. Leaving this few words behind, she went to the kitchen to bring the cutlery for her master. I hope this doesn't come as cringe, like my other fanfiction. I tried to make this maid and master relationship very subtle. Any suggestions are welcome. 8 comments 0 vote. Yggdrasil 1. Embark on an epic journey with Yggdrasil. Valkyrie's downfall. Prepare for an unprecedented adventure with our latest expansion. Dive into a world transformed by Valkyrie's downfall, an expansive new chapter that will redefine your Yggdrasil experience. Venture into uncharted territories within your familiar 9 realms. Uncover hidden marvels and treasures in the lands you thought you knew. Traverse new terrains within the familiar 9 realms, each offering a fresh perspective and countless secrets to discover. Conquer the unknown and confront the new dungeons. Lose yourself in the labyrinthine passages of newly forged dungeons. Forge your path through the darkness, conquering challenges that become more complex with every step. Will you be the first to reach the heart of the unknown dungeons hidden between the worlds? World champions of the 9 realms and new PvP arena. Step into the arena of legends, where warriors clash to prove their supremacy in the 9 realms. Rise to the top, carving your name into history as you compete against the finest players. Be the first to be a champion of your world. Hidden beneath the surface lies the mysterious underground. Unearth the world beneath the surface, where underground cities, ancient ruins, rare mines, and unexplored dungeons await your discovery. Craft your legend by uncovering hidden underground cities, mines, and ruins, each filled with its own stories and mysteries. New bosses. Fearsome enemies of the world. Encounter and try to discover the world-destroying, world enemies. 8 fearsome dragons. Summon your courage to face and find the 8 dragons, each a trial of skill and strategy. Join forces with fellow guild members to find and overcome these legendary challenges, and claim rewards befitting a true champion. Encounter the Lord of the 7 Deadly Sins. Test your mettle against the Lord of the 7 Deadly Sins, each hidden somewhere within the 9 realms. This is battle of epic proportions that will push your limits. With emotions shifting like the tides, only the truly skilled will emerge victorious. Join hands with other guilds to defeat the all-powerful, mighty sins. Seated on his bed, Lucian's gaze remained glued to the screen as he watched the new expansion trailer for the Yggdrasil. The teaser for the patch captured his attention, filling him with a growing sense of excitement. Until now, he hadn't explored the game's lore deeply, but it was becoming clear that every element was intricately connected. The depth of the narrative left him amazed, revealing why players were so passionate about the game. It goes on to show how much effort developers had put into the game. Unveil the power of the divine, fight the archangels of the Sephira. Prepare to test not only your strength but also your unwavering faith. As you tread into the battlefield, the archangels will make you pray to your God, challenging your devotion like never before. The foes you face are sharper, more formidable than ever. Can you rise above and conquer the mightiest of angels, those who serve under the infinity light? Enlightened 5 Rainbow Buddhas await. Embark on a quest to challenge the 5 Rainbow Buddhas, each encounter a chance to claim divine rewards and acquire rare divine class items that are found nowhere else within the game. These sacred battles will push you to your limits, but the rewards will be worth every ounce of effort. Unveil the ultimate mystery. What hidden rewards lie beyond the climax of battle? Defeat the ultimate bosses to unravel the mystery that holds the potential for game-changing revelations. Embrace your fate and spin the limited special gacha and seize destiny. The wheel of fate awaits your touch. Spin the gacha and embrace destiny, for you might just be the lucky individual who claims victory and redefines the course of Yggdrasil. Prepare for Valkyrie's Downfall, an expansion that will redefine your Yggdrasil journey. Are you ready to embrace the unknown and forge your own legend? The trailer was quite lengthy, showcasing numerous features, added bonuses, and new additions to the expansion pack. However, Lucian couldn't help but notice that the trailer only provided silhouettes of the bosses, without any description or their locations. This was a testament to the game's spirit, as the developers intended for players to discover the world enemies on their own. Lucian's interest, however, was in the gacha. As someone who uses gacha to back his lack of reaction time and skills, he is always more interested in min-maxing his character with gacha powers, than using too much time in grinding, although he isn't a dumb guy, who won't use loopholes and the vast customization to his advantage. His next goal was definitely becoming the strongest player in Yggdrasil. Lucian shut down the video on his tablet and returned to his home screen. While his gaze wandered, wondering what to do next, while his maid was setting up Yggdrasil for him. Just then, he heard a knock on the door. "Come in," he immediately responded, his anticipation evident. The door swung open, and the maid entered the room with her characteristic efficiency. "The game Yggdrasil has been set up in the VR room, young master. It's ready to play," she stated in a single breath, her eyes on him. Noticing his enthusiastic smile, a faint hint of relief crossed her face, causing her to inadvertently release a sigh. "Thank you, Mei," he expressed his gratitude with a warm smile. He rose slowly from the bed, placing the tablet aside, he made his way towards the VR room. "It's my duty," Mei responded with a slight smile before leaving the room. She trailed behind Lucian, making sure he was comfortable and safe. Walking down the corridor, Lucian arrived at the VR room and opened the door, revealing a space equipped with 2 VR gears. Positioned in the room's corners were 2 proprietary consoles, each accompanied by a set of headgear and neurotransmitters. As soon as the sensor detected Lucian's presence, the room lit up with various neon lights, casting an array of vibrant colors across the room. Upon entering the room, his attention was drawn to the 2 consoles. Resembling beach chairs, they radiated an inviting comfort. However, these were no ordinary seats, they had been specially designed for extended usage, ensuring optimal comfort during long sessions. Lucian settled into the chair on the left side, and as he did, the headgear lit up in response. Mei stood in the corner, ready to assist if anything arose during his setup, planning to stay in the room until he fully immersed himself in the game. Lucian grasped the extended cable that connected the neurotransmitter to the proprietary console. This neurotransmitter uses the console's capabilities to establish a connection with the player's cerebral cortex. It utilizes an ultracranial nanocomputer network known as the neural nano interface, an innovation created from the fusion of the cyber and nanotechnology. This synergy allowed for a direct interfacing with the brain's synaptic pathways, allowing for a seamless exchange of data and sensory information between the digital world and the human mind. In simple words, it allows a user to dive into a virtual world and experience it as if it were real. However, even the most advanced DMMO-RPGs still struggle to overcome the technological hurdle of properly modeling the changes in a virtual character's face in response to the player's emotions and speech. In accordance with the software legislation for virtual reality games, DMMO-RPGs were prohibited from providing sensory data for smell and taste. Additionally, the sense of touch was also heavily restricted to prevent confusion with the real world. Lucian took the neurotransmitter and swept his black hair behind his ears, revealing a neural port designed for the insertion of the transmitter. Gently connecting the transmitter, he reclined and picked up the VR helmet emitting a soft green glow. It was designed to cover only half of the face, covering the entire area of the eyes. These helmets were originally supposed to be full-faced, but they were compromised due to the well-versed hackers who could utilize others' brains as a springboard to commit crimes. Thus, special helmets were designed to include a system that would record everything happening in the virtual world, retaining the footage for a month before automatically deleting it. These monthly records served to document the user's actions, providing evidence of their innocence even if the wearer was implicated in a crime. One could say this was the safety net of the computing world. In contrast, not having one of these helmets greatly increased the chances that one might be charged when involved in a crime, so only a handful of people chose not to wear them. Darkness greeted Lucian as he put on the helmet. Settling in and relaxing, he gazed into the darkness ahead. "Link start," he said aloud. I know, it looks like I'm stretching this up, but I'll make sure it's worth the wait. Give some power stones for motivation. Any and all suggestions are welcome. 6 comments 0 vote. Yggdrasil 2, Link start, he said aloud. A weird sensation trickled down his body, and he felt himself detach from reality for a moment before emerging in a clear blue interface. It displayed an interface consisting of multiple windows with various games and applications ready to be opened. He used his hand to swipe through the interface, and the game Yggdrasil finally came into view. Glowing golden letters were suspended in front of him within a window, seemingly inviting him to immerse himself in the vast world that awaited. With a simple finger gesture, he tapped on the game, and soon he found himself floating in a white space with a translucent golden interface hovering before his eyes. Welcome to Yggdrasil, these golden letters greeted him, followed by tutorial available. Do you want to go through tutorial? Yes, no. Lucian glanced at the options and pressed yes. Swiftly going through the tutorial, he absorbed the information about character creation and other stuff. The process took him a total of 20 minutes, but it was a worthwhile investment as the game mechanics were undeniably interesting. While Lucian was aware that Yggdrasil offered extensive character customization that left players astonished, now that he dived into the game himself, he understood its true greatness. This game was undoubtedly a hidden gem he had been missing out on. As he mentally absorbed the character customization guide, he searched for any potential loopholes he could exploit. The game's mechanics were detailed, with each element being complex and intricately tied to a backstory. At this point, he was only familiar with the most fundamental aspects of the game. Lucian looked at the new interface hovering before him. Enter the game. Yes, no. He selected yes once again, and felt himself shifting through space, arriving in a huge hall filled to the brim with numerous humanoid silhouettes of various individuals, all resembling each other. His eyes drifted to all the corners of his vision. In the top left corner of his vision, he noticed a screen displaying his character's name, which was empty. Any further details such as race or class were also devoid of any further details since he hadn't made those choices yet. The top right corner of his view displayed the time, which read 10:45 in the morning. In the bottom left corner, another interface caught his attention, featuring options such as menu, chat, call GM, and log out. On the bottom right corner, a mini-map was displayed, currently white and devoid of any markings or information. In the center of his vision was a small rectangular window displaying the name of the place. Place. Character Creation Room. He was indeed in the character creation room. Lucian looked at each corner and observed people appearing, disappearing, and reappearing as they finished customizing their characters. His attention then turned to the window floating at the center of his vision. Character customization. Choose an in-game name. Warning. The name will be visible to other players and on the ranking board. Opening square bracket, closing square bracket. Lucian tapped on the empty box, and a keyboard appeared. He slowly typed his real name, Lucian, which he always used because he loved his real name. Error. Name already in use. What? Lucian audibly gasped, but it wasn't shocking as he sighed and chose another name. Lucian 0. Error. Name already in use. Lucian 01. Error. Name already in use. What the heck? Lucian cursed under his breath. Right now, even if he cursed, no one would hear as the audio chat function is currently off. Deciding that it wasn't going to work and frustrated by the error, Lucian chose a name that no one would probably have used. Lucy. Name registered successfully. Seeing the confirmation, Lucian's eyes twitched as he realized no one would use such a weird and cringy name. Sighing, Lucian looked at the new options that had appeared before him. Now he had to choose between the three major races in the game. Humanoid. Description. A flexible race with humanoid appearance that provides a wide range of benefits and reliable job class coverage due to the absence of racial classes. Races available. Human elf, dark elf, light elf, rainbow eye, winged human, dwarf, sharp horn, four eyes, wild elf, faith sapien, forthan, prasia tailfolk, shadow touch, petra tib neeg maneva, jin al bashara, etc. Demi-humanoid. Description. A race of human-like beings with varying physical attributes, some possessing partly upright postures and animal-like features. They offer a balance between job and race class stats. Races available. Giant, centaur, goblin, kobold, lizardmen, merman, minotaur, ogre, troll, nekomimi, mandrake, tuveg, naga, dragonkin, vulpaculae, houndman, panthern, elephant, equine, etc. Heteromorphic. Description. Inhuman, monstrous races. Most of these races possess monstrous features and appearances, and can only appear human through further customization. They can choose to dedicate leveling up to racial classes, limiting their job classes, or vice versa. Races available. Undead, angel, zombie, demon, doppelganger, dragonoid, golem, insect, plant, slime, skeleton, vampire, lycanthrope, ghost, elemental, dullahan, birdman, homunculus, castkin, Chernobyl, fairy, spirit, yukai, siren, Xana, etc. Looking at all the races available, even Lucian felt a little shaken and dazed. This was the first time he had seen such a level of customization and options available for a player to choose. And this was just the beginning phase of character customization. No wonder their slogan, Player Freedom, finally made sense, as there's literally every race that he could think of. Some might be humanoid, some might be demi-human, while some are heteromorphic. Lucian contemplated the available options, his decision-making process driven by impulses, urges, and desires. He was the type to think about the outcomes later on. Although his knowledge of the game was limited to the basics, Lucian decided to choose a heteromorphic race, as all the races he was interested in fell under that category. Specifically, he had his eyes set on three races that stood out to him. Vampire, Angel, Dragonoid. Each of these races was one he had chosen or played in other DMMO-RPGs or RPGs in general. Although he wasn't familiar with the available racial classes for Dragonoid, he was eager to find out. Whether it was a proper dragon or not, it was evident that it had some draconic qualities. And vampires needed no introduction. They were known as night-crawling bloodsuckers that thrived on darkness and desire. As for angels, well, Lucian had a soft spot for Gapmo and wouldn't mind being an angel character, while having the most negative karma in the game. After all, even karma affected the damage dealt and taken in this world. Looking deeply at the three races, Lucian calculated the most optimal, cool, and overpowered build he could create in the game. He tapped on the vampire icon, and a more descriptive screen appeared. Race: Vampire. Description: a race of heteromorphic creatures with an affinity for blood and night. These immortal night crawlers are a crossbreed between bats and humans, granted magical potential and immortality by their inhumane constitution. They are undead monstrous creatures with very few human qualities, and even less humanity, as their karma is always in the negative. Racial traits: high regeneration, kin creation, ice-type damage resistance, weapon resistance, life drain. Classes available: Vampire, Vampire Knight, vampire caster, vampire lord, vampire noble, vampire assassin, vampire scholar, vampire alchemist. Looking at the available racial classes, Lucian could understand that each of these classes catered to different types of players. For those who wanted to focus on maxing out a specific stat, there were the specialized vampire classes. On the other hand, for those who simply wanted to benefit from the general racial powers of vampires, the normal vampire class was sufficient. This class would distribute the precious racial stat points evenly, rather than focusing on maxing out a single stat. He then shifted his attention to the angel icon and tapped on it. Race: Angel. Description: a race of heteromorphic beings created by the infinity light. Their specialty lies in granting blessings and possessing high magical power. They are beings of high moral value, displaying virtues to the utmost. Great commanders, they have the capability to empower humanity through their commands. Angels come in various forms, but most share a featureless, doll-like appearance that can vary depending on the type of angel. Racial traits: Holy Aura, High Regeneration, Dark Type, Damage Resistance, Weapon Resistance, Grant Blessing, Faith Generation, Positive Aura, Immunity to Negative Aura. Classes available: Angel, Angel Warrior, Angel Scholar, Angel Apostle, Devotee Angel, Guardian Angel, Angel Scribe, Angel Sentinel. Race: Dragonoid. Description: a race of heteromorphic creatures created from worldly energy. Designed to be perfect for nature but inherently imperfect and unnatural for magic. With sturdy natural armor, they are unable to learn magic but can still utilize MP through skills like their dragon breath. Racial traits: natural armor, weapon resistance, piercing resistance, breath attack resistance, natural breath attack, intimidation aura, magic resistance. Classes available: Lesser Dragon, Dragonborn, Draken, Wing, Esakra, Vern, Drakarn. I had a description for each of those races in my mind, and I could have wrote them all, but I know no one will be interested. Anyway, give some power stones. Any and all suggestions are welcome. 6 comments 0 vote. Yggdrasil 3. Looking at the racial traits of the Dragonoid race, Lucian immediately crossed it off. There was no way he was going to play this game and not have magic, especially when he learned that there were over 6,000 spells to learn and master. The sheer number of spells astonished Lucian, although many of them were probably convenience spells. The amount of magic available was still shocking to him. The magic levels were divided into tiers from 1 to 10, with an additional 11th tier known as a super tier, which only magic builds were able to cast. These super tier spells were more like special skills, as they didn't consume MP but were limited in terms of the number of times they could be cast per day, according to the guide. Lucian obviously wanted to create a character that excelled in both magic and combat, preferably a magical knight or something similar. Looking at the Dragonoid race made him realize that it was impossible for him to be a Dragonoid and have access to magic. Cutting it off from his options left him with the choices of Angel and Vampire. Angels seemed like a good option due to the available racial classes, which appeared to be quite strong. However, looking at the racial traits, Lucian was both surprised and intrigued by their numerous advantages. But the karma aspect gave him pause. While most angels had positive karma, he considered that fallen angels might not. To make a worthwhile build, he might have to heavily invest in his racial class. Additionally, angels appeared to be a magic-focused race, which could potentially leave him lacking in physical strength if he chose that racial class. That left him with the option of becoming a vampire. The vampire racial class was well suited for both magic and physical attacks, with multiple class choices available, including Vampire Knight and Vampire Caster. However, the more balanced option was simply the normal vampire class. Lucian speculated that by selecting this class, he might eventually unlock a higher-tier racial class. In the end, after a few moments of contemplation, he made his decision and chose the vampire racial class. As soon as he made his choice, his avatar, which initially resembled a silhouette like others, transformed into a more bestial and monstrous form. He examined his hands and noticed they appeared pale, with veins protruding and claws that looked dirty and grotesque. His fingers were large, resembling those of a monstrous creature. When he opened the menu and accessed the character customization option, a hideous and monstrous-looking creature appeared suspended on the screen. It had bat-like wings, a noseless face, and a monstrous body that stood tall and appeared pale. The creature resembled something straight out of a horror movie, and its appearance even took Lucian by surprise, as he had never seen such a grotesque monster except in movies. And now he had become that monster. This feels violating. The thought of being such a hideous creature was unappealing and disgusting to him. However, he was well aware that he could change his appearance using the creator tools available in the game once he leveled up or gained access to the shop and gacha. He planned to change his character's appearance at the earliest opportunity. As Lucian gazed at the monstrous creature, he saw various options for customization, from elongating limbs to altering the torso. He tried his best to make it look as normal as possible, but it still appeared quite unsettling. Sighing in frustration, Lucian decided to move on and focus on choosing his job classes. A seemingly endless list of base job classes appeared before his eyes as he scrolled through the options. With over 2,000 basic and advanced job classes available, some required specific prerequisites to be met for unlocking, while many were readily available for players during the beginning of their playthrough. The first classes that caught Lucian's attention were Blood Drinker unlocked, Blood Sworn unlocked, Bloodborne unlocked, Blood Chaser unlocked. These classes seemed tailor-made for vampires and were accessible because he had chosen vampire as his racial class. They wouldn't have been available otherwise. Looking at the classes, Lucian went through each of them. Class: Blood Drinker. Description: the class allows the player to manipulate blood and convert it into resources that can be used to strengthen the user and allies. Skills: abilities available: Blood Frenzy, Blood Pool, Blood Store, Blood Consume, Blood Construct. More can be unlocked after leveling up the class. Class: Bloodborne. Description: this class allows the player to manipulate the blood inside one's own body to harden it and use it as armor, increasing physical strength and defense. Skills: abilities available: Blood Armor, Crimson Claw, Blood Enhancement. More can be unlocked after leveling up. Class: Blood Chaser. Description: this class allows the user to manipulate blood to track other players and debuff them by poisoning their blood. Skills: abilities available: Crimson Spit, Frenzied Search, Mark of Blood, Blood Corruption. More can be unlocked after leveling up. Examining the three classes, Lucian realized that each class was tailored for a specific playstyle that players might need. The Blood Drinker class suited magicians, the Blood Chaser class was ideal for support roles, and for warriors who preferred melee combat, the Bloodborne class was a perfect fit. To Lucian, the last option, Blood Sworn, seemed to be the better choice, as it offered superior capabilities compared to the others. Class: Blood Sworn. Description: this class enables the user to utilize their own blood and the blood of others in their vicinity to enhance their physical and magical abilities. This leads to faster spell casting and speed boosts. Skills: abilities available: Blood Bane, Blood Control, Crimson Harmony, Death Chase. Drop Strength. More can be unlocked after leveling up. Lucian understood that this class might not be suitable for those who didn't want a specialized build, but for those aiming to become a magic knight or a similar character, this class was a blessing. Without a second's hesitation, Lucian chose the Bloodsworn class. He knew he could choose more job classes later, as levels could be added to any class as long as he used his menu to do so every time he defeated an enemy. Although Lucian wanted to have other classes, he decided to focus on leveling up the ones he already had first. Finally done with his character creation and customization, a screen appeared before his eyes that marked the start of his journey. Please choose one of the 9 realms: Asgard, Vanaheim, Alfheim, Jotunheim, Niflheim, Midgard, Muspelheim, Nidavellir, Helheim. Looking at the options, there was a description for each of the worlds. Going through them all, Lucian decided on Muspelheim, a place of burning heat, filled with rivers of lava and flaming rocks. A place that one would say is not fitting for vampire, yet he decided to choose that, because he liked the map of Muspelheim. Soon, a detailed map appeared in front of his eyes. Choose a location to spawn in. Lucian noticed that when he tapped on a city, he was rejected with the message, unavailable. It seemed that being a heteromorphic in this game came with a penalty, it wouldn't allow him to spawn in a city. Looking at the terrain and considering what he knew, Lucian chose one of the central safe zones in Muspelheim to spawn in. The further you ventured from the center, the more dangerous it became. A timer appeared in front of his eyes as he waited to spawn in the game. The timer went down from 10 to 0 in an instant, and Lucian felt a falling sensation before materializing within the safe zone he had chosen to spawn in. His eyes took in the surroundings. A river of lava flowed down to his left, while to his right was a forest with burning red trees that wriggled around as if alive, seemingly inviting him. Where he was standing was a safe zone, as there was a cone located in the center with "Safe Zone" displayed over it. The cone provided a safe environment here where no monsters would attack and players wouldn't harm each other. The surroundings appeared grim and hot, but there was no burning sensation. The sky was enveloped in smoke, its reddish hue resembling flames that had consumed the ground. Lucian immediately accessed his console and reviewed his stats. These look terrible. Well, I guess I can't expect much at level 0, Lucian mumbled to himself, disappointed by his pathetic stats, with the highest value being only 4. Luckily, Lucian had spawned in an area where the surrounding monsters were at most level 12. This meant he could handle them as long as he proceeded with caution. However, it's time to access the cash shop. So what if I can't get good stats now? I can pay my way through it, Lucian exclaimed with a touch of sarcasm, as he pulled out the cash shop menu with a smirk on his face. As soon as he opened the cash shop, he was greeted by a flurry of items and even some gachas that allowed players to roll for specific types of items and many more things. Lucian looked at all the cash shop items. Well, it's time to tap till I get bored, Lucian said as he started buying gacha items one after another. A person seeing this from a third-person perspective would probably think of him as a cheater and a spoiled brat. So what? That's how the world works. If you have money, you can get whatever you want, even if it's some cheat-like item in a game. Ring of Medium Enhancement. Description: a finely crafted ring adorned with shining runes. It uses the player's MP to increase the stats. Effects: temporarily increases the player's physical stats by 20% for a duration of 2 hours. Unleashes 20% more damage against elementless monsters. Cost 4,000 yen. Whispering Wind Scroll. Description: an ancient parchment infused with magic, it holds the power to communicate across great distance. Effects: enables the player to establish a mystical link with friends in any distance, allowing for swift and clear communication. Cost 5,000. Embersteel Sword. Description: a blade forged with enchanted embersteel metal, it emits a fiery glow. Effects: deals an additional 25% fire damage. Unleashes the burn effect through rapid strikes. Cost 6,000 yen. Frostbite Dagger. Description: a dagger with a blade imbued with the frost aura. Effects: inflicts frostbite. Amplifies damage by 35% against enemies susceptible to icy elements. Cost 8,000. Mystic Amulet of Divination. Description: a beautiful amulet adorned with mystical runes, it grants insight into lurking mysteries. Effects: uncovers the enemy types present in the area. The total radius is 200 meters. Cost 10,000. Mask of Negation. Description: an intricately designed ornate mask that wards of negative energy. Effects: grants a level 3 negative immunity, shielding against dark curses and negative debuffs. Cost 20,000 yen. Enchanted Quill. Description: a quill pulsing with unknown magical power. Effects: supercharges the written words, amplifying the potency of scrolls, runes, and inscriptions by a staggering 70%. Cost 25,000. Shub-Niggurath's Tentacle. Description: a sinister, otherworldly tentacle that writhes with chaotic, negative energy. Effects: functions as a catalyst for crafting negative and dark magic artifacts. Empowers the potency of corresponding spells, scrolls, and items by an astounding 200%. Cost 45,000 yen. Gambler's Dice. Description: a pair of dice with a touch magical luck. Effects: increases the drop rate of rare items, and gold during quests and battles by 65%. Cost 200,000 yen. Cloak of Unknowable. Description: a silken cloak woven with the essence of darkness and silence. Effects: grants permanent invisibility akin to the 5th tier spell Invisibility. Can be activated for a 30-minute bout of Perfect Unknowable, the 9th tier spell every 2 hours. Cost 50,000. Sorry if the prices feel wrong, I didn't know how to price each of them. The more Lucian scrolled, the higher the prices went up. However, Lucian didn't care about anything as he tapped on the items to buy as much as possible until the items became unavailable to buy. Due to being sheltered all his life, Lucian's common sense was just as underdeveloped as a toddler's. The value of money was not something that Lucian understood, as everything in his life had been catered to him, and money was never an issue. Although the numbers went up, Lucian didn't care and bought anything he could. That's always how he did it in other games, though. Unless it was a normal VR RPG, which he preferred to clear using his own hard work, as everything went according to the planned story. After getting tired of buying items from the endless cash shop, he turned his attention to the items he had in his inventory. He had also purchased the infinite inventory from the cash shop, which essentially granted him an unlimited amount of storage space. This meant he didn't have to worry about running out of space in his inventory, unlike normal first-time players who have very limited storage. After finishing his spending spree, Lucian turned his attention to his character customization options. He accessed the creator tools and applied custom skins and textures that he had purchased from the cash shop. His goal was to make his previously hideous vampiric character look as close to his own appearance as possible. I have a lot of items in my mind that I wanted to list on the cash shop, but I'll save that for the new world. Give some power stones for motivation. Any and all suggestions are welcome. 13 comments 0 vote. Boss monster. In the heart of the blazing forest, where burning trees swayed eerily, a player battled against a horde of monsters. With skillful movements, he cut through the creatures one by one, effortlessly navigating his way through the fray. I didn't know this forest was so good for leveling up. Lucian, now a changed man, cleaved through hordes of flaming goblins, each of them wielding flames in their hands, as he skillfully used his scythe to cut through their bodies with ease and absolute precision. Every time the scythe touched the monsters, it applied an instant death effect, easily granting them instant demise. The cleaving was merely an additional feature that Lucian had incorporated into the weapon by adding more data crystals. However, there were too many of these goblins. Unlike the typical goblins who would often appear half-naked, only covering their private areas, these goblins were each clad in metal armor that protected their vital parts. They also wore caps resembling miners and wielded hammers in one hand, while flames flickered in the other. Lucian currently stood about 20 meters away from a cave situated right next to a stream of lava, which the goblins were fiercely defending. This cave housed a boss monster, and players had to defeat the goblins before they could confront the boss. As for how Lucian learned this, it was thanks to the bestiary he won through a gachapon. Now, you might be wondering, what was gachapon? Well, it was essentially a gacha shop that offered a chance to win numerous rare gacha items. Rare items were what players aimed to obtain. Gachapon had a variety of gachas, each featuring its own set of rare items. This meant players had a shot at winning their favorite gacha items from gachapon. What he won was a bestiary that provided detailed information on monsters ranging from level 1 to level 80, excluding the boss monsters. It included their attack pattern, weaknesses, and more. There was another bestiary he received as a reward for completing his first story quest, but to his disappointment, it was an empty bestiary containing only pictures and names of the monsters, without any additional details. However, the details of these goblins were available in the quest as well, since he had to eliminate 200 of them to complete the current story quest he was doing. Lucian cleaved through the last Yggdrasil. This was the name of this particular species of goblins. Well, it's a good thing I'm already level 33, otherwise, I would have had a tough time fighting all those level 40 plus Yggdrasils with just my physical attacks. Lucian spoke to himself as he waved his stoic avatar's head, shamelessly forgetting the fact that his scythe was a divine-class weapon imbued with instant death effects, capable of eliminating opponents without any effort. The avatar now resembled a young man similar to his real-life self, bearing a striking resemblance. Lucian had invested a significant amount of time designing it, using numerous paid skins and textures to make it as realistic as possible. Lucian was currently adorned in a lightweight armor of red hue with intricate golden outlines. The red color would glow when Lucian engaged in combat, though it had now dimmed to its normal state. This armor had the special ability to enhance his physical stats during battle. Likewise, the golden lines would illuminate when he channeled his MP to boost his magical stats. This armor was another divine class item, acquired through a real cash auction he participated in just last night. Divine class items were exceptionally rare, a rarity even among level 100 players. After all, divine class items were the ultimate pinnacle of what Yggdrasil had to offer. In the hierarchy of gears and items class, it progressed from low to middle to high to top to legacy to relic to legendary, with divine being the highest and most coveted. However, it still wasn't the highest tier an item could reach. There was one more level above it, known as world class. World class, something Lucian had no prior knowledge of. He only discovered it 4 days ago when he purchased a premium Yggdrasil wiki subscription after seeing an advertisement for the website. World-class items were shrouded in mystery for most players. Even if they possessed some knowledge about them, they chose to keep it concealed. Yggdrasil was a game of exploration, as emphasized by the developers, and players were encouraged to uncover its secrets themselves. In Yggdrasil, information about nearly everything was left for players to discover, a treasure trove for high-level players. The only thing Lucian knew about world-class items was their potential to alter fundamental aspects of the game, making them exceptionally game-changing. Lucian was determined to obtain a world-class item, no matter what. After all, he loved this game and wanted to discover everything about it. Even though he had only been playing it for 2 weeks, he had become addicted to it. The thrill of leveling up filled him with an unmatched sense of achievement. Despite having played numerous DMMO-RPGs before, this one provided a satisfaction like no other. This level of satisfaction was brought to him by the effort he put into the game. The game's details were enormous too, with brilliant layers of flavor text, often 3 or more, for almost everything. Whether it's a place or an item, everything has intricate detail, without any loopholes as he tries to find them but he's not able to. He had broken many games before by exploiting loopholes through the excessive use of cache items or similar methods, but Yggdrasil proved different. He couldn't achieve that here. Despite numerous items and features being locked behind paywalls, they were not essential for a normal playthrough, and even if someone obtained them, they wouldn't be able to disrupt the game. Lucian, on the other hand, had set a determined goal to become a master player, regardless of the challenges he faced. Lucian looked at the rectangular screen displayed in front of him. Place: Platinum Ashen Grotto. Type: Dungeon. Lucian took a deep breath as he unequipped his scythe, his primary weapon, because, of course, he loved scythes. Lucian then checked his stats, which he had leveled up twice while killing the horde of Yggdrasil at the entrance of the cave. IGN. Lucy. Heteromorph. Alignment: Neutral Evil. Karma: -100. Level: 35. Racial class: Vampire LVL, 10 max. True Vampire LVL, 1 up pointing arrow. Job class: Bloodsworn LVL, 9 up pointing arrow. Sea Lancer LVL, 3. Arcane Disciple LVL, 12. HP 43/45. MP 50/50. Physical attack: 42. Physical defense: 45. Agility: 35. Magical attack: 45. Magical defense: 45. Resist: 40. Special: 35. Lucian's stats were exceptionally high for his level. In fact, some might even accuse him of cheating with his MP stat at 50, all while only being at level 35. However, this was all thanks to him using numerous cash shop items to maximize his stat gains with every level up. Although it cost a substantial amount of money, it was a price Lucian was willing to pay for a more enjoyable experience. Lucian had also unlocked a new racial class in his racial class tree, True Vampire. This class provided a significant boost in both physical and magical stats, but what made it truly remarkable were the skill points and special abilities it offered. However, there was a drawback: it altered his original vampiric appearance, making it even less appealing. Fortunately, this was concealed by the cosmetics and customizations Lucian had applied. Yet, it still reverted to its hideous, monstrous lamprey-like appearance when he activated his powerful racial skills, which was why he refrained from using them. As for Lucian's new job classes, Sea Lancer and Arcane Disciple were 2 classes he had unlocked purely by coincidence, thanks to winning 2 gacha items that granted access to special job classes. Job class: Sea Lancer. Description: a long-forgotten class of warriors once revered as the Lords of the Seas. These warriors were blessed by the sea god Poseidon himself. Sea Lancers stand as the most formidable champions of the ocean, representing various races, from rainbow eyes to ghouls. Skills: Aquatic Boost, Song of the Sirens, Aqua Step, Whale's Call, Kraken's Grasp, Coral Command. Abilities: Poseidon's Blessing, Call of the Sea Lord, Oceanic Dominion. This class offered a blend of both magical and physical abilities, granting him multiple skills capable of dealing both magical and physical damage, for which he was truly grateful. As for the other class, Arcane Disciple, it provided him with a significant magical boost, which explained why he had 50 in MP. Though Lucian desired to build a versatile character, he still liked magic more because being a mage was easier for him than being a warrior. He understood that he couldn't compete with skilled warriors, as they typically possessed sharper reflexes in the virtual world, a trait he lacked. Having been sheltered all his life and plagued by physical ailments, his reflexes were sluggish even in the virtual reality. However, he compensated for this deficiency by maximizing his physical stats, which surpassed those of the average player, thanks to his classes that granted him additional powers. Lucian looked at the huge cave before him. He could see Ignis ores stuck all over the cave. If a lower-level player with a job class related to crafting or blacksmithing were here, they would undoubtedly dive into the cave to mine these metals. However, Lucian had no interest in it. He fixed his gaze on the cave ahead and dove right in. After another 20 minutes of exploration and dispatching more than 70 additional Ignis Nas, Lucian finally stood in front of the boss room. He gazed at the massive gray creature sleeping atop the elevated rock, now taking on an ashen hue. The monster resembled a lizard, its body covered in gleaming metallic scales. Its eyes remained shut as Lucian had yet to breach the radius necessary for the boss to detect him. Ashen Platinum Salamander. Level 55. HP 70. MP 2020. Danger Mid. Class SQ Boss. This was a boss monster, not a raid boss, but a standard quest boss monster. Raid bosses typically required a party or multiple parties to defeat and were usually capped at level 70 or higher. In contrast, normal boss monsters could be of any level and provided better rewards if a low-level player managed to defeat them. They often respawned after an hour or so, unlike regular raid bosses, which could take days or even weeks. These were entirely distinct from world enemies, which could only be defeated once and would never appear again. This boss monster was a quest boss, offering higher experience points thanks to the additional express from completing the quest. Additionally, Lucian was using 2x boost cards to accelerate his grinding speed. What Lucian was currently doing was power leveling. Basically, he aimed to reach level 90 as quickly as possible for one significant reason and one minor one. The minor reason being that he wanted to reach level 90 with a formidable build, allowing him to interact with other players. He had realized something utterly frightening, though it didn't concern him much. Heteromorph players were hunted throughout the game, a fact that troubled him slightly. When Lucian chose the heteromorphic race, he was unaware that it would make him a target. In just 2 weeks of playing, he had already encountered 2 players who tried to kill him upon seeing him, both having humanoid avatars as evidence of their race. Lucian was at a very low level during that time, only level 20, just 3 days ago when he encountered them. He initially thought they would leave him alone, but no, they attempted to kill him and came dangerously close to succeeding. Fortunately, he had obtained numerous cash shop items, and the players weren't very high level, being only at levels 74 and 76 respectively. So, he used magic scrolls, which are parchment scrolls enchanted to contain a spell. He used 2 tier 10 scrolls of carnal destruction, a highly damaging arcane destruction type spell, and successfully killed them while they were caught off guard. They didn't expect a low-level player at level 20 to possess an item typically reserved for higher-level players. Not to mention, it was one of the most rare tier 10 spells, carnal destruction, which summons 7 carnal sins to attack simultaneously with their most powerful abilities. Lucian gave a slight smirk as he recollected the events of 3 days ago, just before stepping inside the boss room. This is all the chapters I've stockpiled and written. The next chapter will be tomorrow. If I get a few power stones, then I can double the chapters and give it to you guys. Kindness Writer. Give some power stones for motivation. Any and all suggestions are welcome. 8 comments 0 vote. Boss fight and unique class. Hiss. A hissing sound emerged as the rock beneath the ashen platinum salamander melted. The gray salamander opened its reptilian eyes to fixate on the new player. Lucian waited for a moment, allowing aggro to take effect, before he could begin dealing with the monster. The ashen platinum salamander swiftly leapt from the melting rock, landing right before Lucian. Its reptilian eyes gleamed with an eerie intensity as it parted its mouth, revealing long, menacing fangs. A radiant glow began to gather within its jaw, forming a pulsating ball of energy that culminated in a fearsome breath attack aimed squarely at Lucian. The fire breath shot straight towards Lucian, however, he immediately vanished. He had already used his hotkeys to cast teleportation, combined with delay magic and silent cast, allowing him to disappear at the first sign of the monster's attack. Lucian reappeared behind the salamander. The AI used for the story quest bosses was easily tricked, and it would take the monster a few seconds to detect him because he had used the Cloak of Unknowable to conceal himself. Lucian immediately used his hotkeys to cast a series of Tier 5 spells in quick succession. Dragon Lightning, Freeze Burst, Catacomb Capture, Stone Drill, Fall Down, Adamantine Spike. Lucian used the console to aim the spell directly at the back of the salamander. A lightning bolt in the shape of a dragon struck the creature, dealing a significant blow to its HP. -15 damage. As soon as the attack hit, the Ashen Platinum Salamander swiftly moved toward Lucian, sensing the direction from which the attack had came. However, Lucian had already teleported once again, repositioning himself behind the salamander and aiming another spell toward it. The ground suddenly burst open, revealing multiple sand-made hands that clutched the boss monster, immobilizing the salamander within the earth. As it struggled to break free, Lucian aimed another spell at the trapped creature. Out of nowhere, a freezing burst of wind struck the struggling salamander. -20 damage. The freezing spell dealt more damage when the opponent was immobilized. Lucian then immediately aimed the other spell that he had cast on his hotkey toward the still-trapped salamander. A small stone materialized and began spinning, supercharging itself before launching toward the boss monster, dealing a heavy blow. -15 damage. Lucian's eyes sparkled with fun and amusement as he continued to toy with the boss monster. If he wanted to, Lucian could have easily used one of his Tier 10 scrolls or summoned some mercenary NPCs to deal with the boss monster. However, he refused to deny himself the pleasure of enjoying such a magnificent game. The Ashen Platinum Salamander finally broke free from the immobilizing spell and made its way toward Lucian, who had removed the Cloak of Unknowable. However, this time, Lucian didn't move. Instead, he stood there, waiting for the monster to come to where he wanted it. Good. Just as the monster was within 5 meters of Lucian, he opened his mouth. "Now, fall down." As he said this, a magic circle appeared beneath the salamander, causing it to immediately topple onto its belly. However, before it could even attempt to rise, release Adamantine Spike, Lucian unleashed a spell he had stored in that place, and a magic circle appeared once again. A purple spike materialized, tearing through the monster's data and inflicting massive damage. The creature began to disintegrate into blue particles. -20 damage. Lucian watched as the monster vanished, transforming into particles of light. Then, a notification appeared before his eyes. You have killed the Ashen Platinum Salamander, level 55. Plus 56890 XP. You have completed the story quest. Plus 45677 XP. Level up pointing arrow. Level up pointing arrow. Quest. Description. Defeat the Ashen Salamander in its lair, along with killing the 200 Ignis Nas who worship it. Rewards. 45,677 Express, Key of Blazing Temple. You have unlocked a new degree chain story quest. Lucian gazed at the series of notifications and continued to press on the console screen. He had just completed one chain quest in the campaign story mode, specifically the Muspelheim questline. He chose to tackle all the solo quests, as he had no intention of partying up with anyone until he reached at least level 90, or felt confident enough to handle level 100 players. He then examined the drops that the boss monster had dropped. Drops. Ember Platinum Fangs, 30. Ignis Ores, 40 large blocks. Salamander's Flaming Tail, Burning Platinum Scales, 67. Ember Stones, 54 small rocks. Magic Stones High, 23. Ashen Platinum Heart, Platinum Bones, 50. Searing Blood Vials, 6. Blazing Platinum Blooms, 9. Gnaw Flaming Hammers High, 2. Eggs of Ashen Salamander, 3. Top-tier Data Crystals, 20 units. Huo Keystone, 3 million gold coins. Usually, items dropped by monsters weren't collected automatically, and players had to pick them up manually, which was a tedious task. Most of the time, players used mercenary NPCs for this purpose. However, you could bypass this by purchasing an extension from the cash shop, which would compile the entire loot for you, unless you were in a party, similar to having an infinite inventory. Lucian examined the items dropped by the boss monster, and he was thoroughly satisfied. This quantity was highly unusual for a low-level boss, and these items shouldn't be dropping in such abundance. This abundance of item was due to the gambler's dice, which increased the drop rates for all items, even from boss monsters. For instance, top-tier data crystals like these aren't typically dropped by a level 55 boss. They're usually reserved for level 70 and above bosses, and even then, they're a rare find. Yet, in this case, the boss dropped more than one mid-tier data crystal, 20 units to be exact. Data crystals were counted as units, as although they physically exist but were also an integral part of game's system as a whole like coins. Similarly, the coins could be acquired in physical form through the coins item, but it wouldn't be feasible to possess such a large quantity. These data crystals took the shape of cards but existed as three-dimensional crystalline blocks, their colors varying with their levels. For example, low-level data crystals were yellow, mid-tier data crystals were blue, high-tier data crystals were white, and peak-tier data crystals were golden. Each unit contained a specific number of codes, and the quantity depended on the tier of the data crystal. These codes, along with their quantity, were used to create and customize various things in the game. There were specific classes that allowed for a clear inspection and appraisal of data crystals. After all, not every mid-tier or top-tier data crystal was the same. They could very well differ in terms of what they were good at. For example, a data crystal that's able to provide more data for your weapon, in terms of physical attack stats, while one can be used to add more attributes and power to your skills. Another might just be used to add a skill or ability to your weapon or anything you are creating. That aside, Lucian examined all the items, although he found himself rather confused by one of them. As he read through its description, he couldn't quite grasp its meaning. Huo keystone. Type. Accessory. Description. A keystone of unknown origin. It is said something mysterious will happen when the conditions are right. Lucian didn't understand the condition it referred to, but he knew he wouldn't be able to decipher it now. Yggdrasil had a way with mysteries, often leaving the players in the dark about certain things. Leaving the items in his inventory, Lucian jumped onto the elevated stone where the salamander had been sleeping. Lucian sat down on the stone as he pulled out his console and navigated through the menu to open up the cash shop. He looked at the top right corner and saw the time. 8:43. Soon, it would be time for him to eat and sleep, or else his maid would start lecturing him. That's why he planned to follow his usual ritual, which involved opening the cash shop. The Yggdrasil devs added new items every day, and Lucian thoroughly enjoyed spending money on cash shop items. Cash shop. Artifacts degree new degree. Data crystals. Customizables. Weapons degree new degree. Armors degree new degree. Consumables degree new degree. Skins. Textures degree new degree. Mods. Creative tools degree new degree. Gachapon. The degree new degree tag next to an option indicates that something new has been added to the shop. Lucian promptly entered the shops and browsed through the items, purchasing everything he fancied without concern for his finances. After all, he was oblivious to the fact that his daily spending exceeded the monthly salary of some people. After getting everything degree new degree he wanted from the shops, Lucian looked at one option that he had saved for last and was always looking forward to. Gachapon. Gachas. Something that sucks the life and humanity out of men. Makes the poor bleed and rich become poor and make them bleed too. Basically, if you play gacha, you bleed money and you are poor. That might be the case for normal people. However, unlike them, Lucian had enough wealth to turn a gacha addiction into a hobby. After all, his father was none other than Kyuhei Suzuki, the man solely responsible for the entire Evans Corporation. He ranked among the wealthiest individuals globally, and that was merely accounting for his personal assets, not even considering the entire corporation. Lucian accessed the Gachapon interface and observed the screen, which showcased multiple gachas. Gachapon options. Divine Downfall. 5000 WC. Legendary Downfall. 2000 WC. Relic Downfall. 700 WC. Custom Downfall. 500 WC. Random Downfall. 200 WC. Artifact Downfall. 3000 WC. Lucian examined the various gachas on offer. Tapping on each of these options would reveal different gachas specific to that tier, each containing its own collection of rare items, weapons, armors, consumables, and even significant quantities of ores and minerals for artificers, craftsmen, and blacksmiths. These gacha rolls could only be obtained using WC, which stood for World Crystals. World crystals were the currency required to access gachas, and they came at an exorbitant cost. 1 WC was roughly equivalent to 100 yen. This meant that even rolling for the most basic gachas required a substantial amount of money, seemingly making it a very difficult feat to get your desired item. However, players could acquire WCs by diligently completing daily quests over an extended period. By doing so, they could accumulate 100,200 WCs each week, which, if saved and spent wisely, could allow them to make 1 or 2 rolls a month. However, Lucian was not going to roll for any of these gachas right now, as he has already done a lot of them and gotten many of the items. And he didn't had time to, as he had to log out before 9:20 so he can let himself off his maid's nagging and sarcastic remarks. Lucian's gaze fell upon the final, most striking option at the bottom of the gacha list. Valkyrie's Downfall, 10,000 WC. Roll for a mystical class, and earn the love of Valkyrie. Lucian had been trying his luck with this mystical class mentioned in the gacha since day 1, and thus far, he hadn't obtained anything. In contrast to other gachas where you could still obtain decent or rare items even if you didn't get what you wanted, this one had a different story. It was utterly futile. Your reward would be nothing more than redundant items with no practical use in the game. Plus, it demanded a hefty 10,000 WC for a single roll. Fortunately, Lucian had no qualms about this, as he could afford to roll multiple times each day. The Yggdrasil wiki had labeled this gacha as a scam the devs had put in place for newbies because they aren't getting paid enough. At least, that's what all the rumors and speculations among players suggested. Lucian tapped on the gacha to roll, and a new interface appeared before his eyes. A Valkyrie in gold armor descended from the sky into a desolate world, only to meet her demise, revealing the gacha results. No luck. The Valkyrie didn't survive. This was the typical gacha animation for the game because of the current expansion pack. However, for this specific gacha, the Valkyrie didn't even bring common items or guaranteed golds. Lucian sighed, disappointed by his lack of luck. This is so stupid, Lucian muttered to himself, then he remembered how foolish he had been to roll over 400 times since he started playing the game. I'm the stupid one here, huh? Shaking his head, Lucian decided to roll one last time in the hope that it would increase his chances in the future. However, what he didn't expect was to see something unusual. In the gacha animation this time, the Valkyrie fell down again. Lucian expected the animation to cut and the usual notification of no luck to appear. However, this time, he saw the Valkyrie holding a prism-like object in its hand as it got up. A new notification appeared before Lucian's eyes, shocking him. Congratulations! You've won an unique job class. If Lucian's face could have shown emotions, he would have displayed an expression of overwhelming joy right now. However, his avatar concealed it well. Courtesy to my hands, I was able to write this in an hour. Thanks for reading. Give some power stones for motivation. Any and all suggestions are welcome. 14 comments 0 vote. Cheat class. Congratulations. You've won an unique job class. Class. Greatest Einherjar. Lucian stared at the screen that informed him about his newfound job class. Upon reading the class name, a wide grin spread across Lucian's face, even though his avatar remained stoic. Lucian tapped on the console, and a new screen appeared before his eyes, presenting him with a long list of options to choose from. Please choose one of the following: lance, sword, spear, dagger, bow, scythe, axe, shield, mace, staff, chakram, gun, flail, armament. Locked. Lucian carefully considered his options. While he was familiar with the term Einherjar from his Yggdrasil premium information, the specific class Greatest Einherjar was entirely new to him. He knew that the choice he was about to make could significantly impact his gameplay, so he needed to think it through. Lucian was aware that rare classes existed within the game, often hidden for players to discover through trial and error. Considering the expansion pack was named Valkyrie's Downfall, he could roughly guess that this class was somehow related to the downfall of Valkyries. Lucian examined all the weapon options available. In Yggdrasil, there were some high classes that allowed for a diverse choice of weapons or elements. For example, the class Valkyrie allowed you to choose a main weapon, which would grant you complete mastery over that weapon and skills related to it, such as lance, spear, sword, and so on. Just like that, there are even some racial classes that offer this option. For example, the elemental racial class allows you to choose an element to specialize in, such as fire, water, wind, earth, and so on. From the weapon options available, Lucian could roughly guess that this class was oriented towards physical combat. However, he couldn't be too certain because he didn't have all the information about it. Leaving all the 13 unlocked options aside, Lucian looked at the last option, which had a lock beside it. When he tapped on the console for a descriptive explanation, he was greeted by a paywall. Cost: 100,000 yen. Lucian had never encountered such shamelessness from a game before. He had played games like Average, Zombieclips, Lord of Arenas, and others. While those DMMO-RPGs had certain features locked behind paywalls, they were not as petty as to lock essential class options behind them. Not only was this class hidden behind a paywall, but it also came from an expensive gacha roll. Lucian couldn't help but think about how shameless the game developers were being with these tactics. However, for Lucian, it wasn't going to work. Lucian's wealth made these paywalls and expensive gacha rolls more of a minor annoyance than a true barrier. Money flowed freely for him, and he had more than enough to spare. For Lucian, money is nothing noteworthy. However, if it were some other players, they would have definitely preferred and chosen the unlocked options because of the amount of money. Lucian looked at the locked armament option, and he was greeted by a paywall. He immediately tapped on the pay option, and soon the locked armament option was unlocked. As Lucian tapped on the armament option, choosing it, a new notification appeared before his eyes, filled with information about this expensive job class. Congratulations, you've acquired a new job class. Greatest Einherjar armament. Description: the dying goddess of Valkyries has fallen. Her beloved Einherjar, the mightiest warrior of Valhalla, the one who made gods shiver, died in the battle against the nefarious world devourer. Dying in the hands of her lover, goddess Freya, the Einherjar left behind his will and power to destroy the world devourer. The goddess of war, beauty, Valkyries, and most of all love, has used all her powers to save her lover's dying soul by giving it all her divinity. She has converted all her divinity into this class, creating this class that can make a warrior the greatest of all time. Save the 9 realms by using this class. Stats to be increased every time the player levels up this class, plus 50 in all stats. Going down to level 1 just to increase plus 50 in all the level ups won't give you plus 50 in stats every time you level up. Each time the player meets the prerequisite to unlock a Valkyrie, the player can choose an armament to have absolute control over. Due to the player being a non-humanoid race, a new racial class tree will be unlocked. Karma plus 300. Unlocks the Hero Chain Quest. Skills: First Einherjar, Future Sight, Last Einherjar, One with Death, Valkyrie's Valor, Eternal Stand, Aegis of Strength, Freya's Beauty, Heaven's Gate, Winged Charge, Blood of the Valkyrie, Epic Saga. Abilities: Wings of Ascension, Lover of Strength, Armament, Authority X, Valkyrie, Holy Aura X, Heaven's Blessing, Chosen One, Divine Beauty, Divine Love, Rider of the Storm, God Slayer Aura I. Valkyries. Brynhild, unlocked. Locked conditions yet to be met. 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 Lucian couldn't hide his excitement as he delved into the details of his newly acquired class. While his avatar remained stoic on the screen, inside his mind, he was doing virtual jumping jacks with pure joy. Lucian couldn't help but feel like he had hit the jackpot with this class. If he could give it a name, it would be the cheat class, a class so overpowered that it should never have been released by the game developers. This was an overkill of a class. However, it was definitely released because he currently has the option to equip it. Lucian tapped on the job class option, ready to equip the powerful class. Do you want to equip the rare job class, Greater Einherjar armament? Yes, no. Without a second thought, Lucian tapped yes, and as soon as he did so, all the skills and abilities became visible in his character profile. He saw his interface updating with new passive skills, and what shocked him was the significant increase in his stats. It made him wonder if these passive skills alone were already overpowered, not to mention the plus 50 boost every time a player leveled up in the class. Just that was enough to make him stronger than any level 100 players. However, when he looked at the class one more time, he realized something that made him swallow hard. It made him question whether this class was actually as great as he initially thought. This class can only be leveled up through solo killing of the hero quest raid bosses, and each boss can only be killed once by the player. This made Lucian not only frown but also spew blood in sheer frustration. Just when he thought he had acquired a cheat, he was greeted by this. However, Lucian's mood didn't remain sour for too long, as an eerie smile spread across his face. Hey, really, are the devs trying to play with me? Lucian muttered to himself while laughing. His avatar was shivering as Lucian laughed. He thought for a second there before he realized how stupid he had been. He has to solo the bosses to level up. That means he can solo the bosses any way he likes. That means using items too. And what was Lucian best at? Lucian's specialty was using cash shop cheat items to defeat his enemies. Searching through his memory, he had found a good way to defeat the bosses, using a special item he acquired through the gacha. This item was incredibly rare, and he had managed to obtain around 10 of them. And that was. Lucian tapped on his inventory and accessed the accessory section, where he was greeted by a plethora of accessory items, each with a quantity exceeding 100. He tapped on the search item option and typed in what he wanted. Search. Glorious Halo of the Forgotten God. Searching it, the item immediately appeared, and Lucian tapped on it. Glorious Halo of the Forgotten God. Type. Accessory consumable. Description. A halo forged by the divinity and blood of a forgotten god. This halo is said to have magical properties that scholars are not able to understand. Effects. This item allows the user to cast 2 super tier spells at the same time through the abilities of chain casting and instant cast. It doubles the power of the previous super tier spells cast if any casted. Needs 300 units of peak tier data crystals to charge up the item. Can be supercharged to maximize the damage effective spells. Now, you might wonder about the use of this item. Essentially, this item takes cheating to a whole new level. It's an improved version of the instant cast hourglass which allows for the instant casting of super tier magic when consumed. This item can work both ways. When equipped as a halo, it reduces the casting time of a super tier spell by 50%. In a game where even seconds can decide the outcome of a battle, a 50% reduction is significant. It can be used constantly for a 50% speed boost in casting super tier spells. As a consumable, however, a player can cast 2 super tier spells at once, instantly. This is a game-changing item that should normally require a significant amount of money to obtain. Lucian was not only lucky but also dedicated his free time to roll for this limited edition item, knowing it would be a valuable asset in the future. However, he didn't know it would come in handy so early. This item has the option to store a spell through the use of the sacrifice of mercenary vessels. Basically, if given enough sacrifice and data crystals, it can allow for the casting of 2 super tier spells per item. This means that if Lucian uses it wisely, he'll be able to cast multiple super tier spells at once, even if he himself doesn't know any. All he needs are the grimoires from the cash shop. Now, Lucian had this item, a super tier spell that, even if used on raid bosses, could deal them heavy damage. If used wisely, this item could help him defeat the raid bosses without dying. Once he leveled up, he would be able to compete with level 100 players easily. Now, you might say, this class doesn't sound like a SN type of class as written in the title. Well, that'll come later. Thanks for reading. Give power stones for motivation. Any and all suggestions are welcome. Drop a review to get a special ability from author. Ability: Author's Eternal Vow of Love. Description: a blessing that grants you the eternal love of author. Effects: every time you are in the range of opposite gender, your riz increases by 500%. The probability of you getting bitches increases by 500%. Chances of you getting picked up by some rob to become their love child becomes 100%. You instantly become Adonis. Good night. 14 comments, 0 vote. Player killers. Lucian then looked at the last notification that had become visible to him, after he dealt with all of the others. A new racial class tree has been unlocked. Vampire. Down pointing arrow. Origin vampire, true vampire, noble vampire. Down pointing arrow. Ancient vampire, elder vampire, vampire count. Down pointing arrow. First vampire, vampire progeny, vampire king. Down pointing arrow. 1 sanguine. Click here to view the basic vampire racial tree I've made. Lucian looked at the vampire racial class tree that had suddenly unlocked for him, and he was initially shocked. However, he soon noticed a particular branch of the tree that was shining. When Lucian's vampire racial class was fully leveled up, he was presented with 3 options to choose from: Origin Vampire, Noble Vampire, and True Vampire. Well, as you can probably guess, Lucian chose the last option, True Vampire, because that racial class provided him with better racial skills and abilities. However, now he saw a new branch of evolution coming right next to his vampire racial class. Instead of his True Vampire racial class, which he has only invested 1 levels in so far. Vampire LVL, 10 max. Down pointing arrow. Transcendent Vampire LVL, 5 max. Lucian looked at the racial class and saw his normal racial class suddenly branching into a rare class. Lucian felt that his old True Vampire racial class was now obsolete, but he had cash shop items to remove it and make way for the new Transcendent Vampire class. Lucian wisely chose to close his interface instead of rushing to equip the class or inspect its description. He was conscious of the time and didn't want to face criticism for neglecting his meals and medications. With a contented smile, Lucian jumped down from the elevated stone and headed toward the cave's exit. Emerging from the cave, Lucian found himself back in the familiar, burning, and wiggling forest. As he took a deep breath and prepared to log out, a flying wind blade suddenly came hurtling toward his face. Lucian endured the attack, shrouded in dust, waiting for it to settle. Once the dust cleared, he found himself facing 2 other players. Lucian noticed that both players were adorned in impressive gear, and upon checking their profiles, he saw that they were both humanoid characters. Lucian quickly realized what situation he was in. He had become a target for PKERs once again. Hey, he's too low level. Are you sure this vampire will be enough? Also, look at his avatar, it's so realistic and damn handsome. How many cosmetic items did he use to make it look like this? The player, resembling a humanoid female elf, said to her companion. She held a green staff and wore an extravagant golden academic robe that covered her entire body, revealing only a hint of cleavage. It was likely customized to look this way. Kiki Kokono, humanoid, race, elf, class, mage. Level 80, HP 50-50, MP 68-73. I don't need to level up, Kokono. All I want is to meet my requirement to unlock the Vanquisher job class, her companion, the male player who appeared like an elf with albino skin, replied. His eyes had a subtle glow as he observed Lucian. He wore an equally extravagant set of gear, which was a full-body armor, covering his entire body except for his face, with glowing eyes fixed on Lucian as if he expected him to attack and be defeated. Monster Hunter 999, humanoid, race, light elf, class, Lancer. Level 87, HP 75-75, MP 55-55. Hey, do you think that's divine gear he's wearing? I can't appraise it with my skill, the elf girl said as she gazed at Lucian's armor, which began to glow the moment he sensed the player's presence. That's definitely a divine class gear. To think a level 35 player would have a divine class item. This damn guy definitely won big in some gacha. The elf guy exclaimed through gritted teeth, frustrated by his own luck. His blue-haired avatar moved closer to Lucian as he retrieved his weapon from his inventory, a green lance that looked hastily customized and, at best, a relic class item. Kokono, can you trap him? I don't want him teleporting out. He might be casting some spell. Hi. The girl responded in a joyful tone as she promptly extended her hands toward Lucian and casted her spell. Bind species. Lucian watched in silence as the female player cast her spell and the male player approached him. Why is he standing there like a statue? He should be able to move his hands at least, to navigate his console. Maybe he is retarded. Lol, should we rough him up a little before killing? Masao, that's so cruel. Let's do it. Lucian didn't move, log out, or attempt to escape. After all, why should he? Lucian saw an opportunity to gain some valuable experience points. The 2 players were level 80, and defeating them would grant him a significant amount of express. Since he was currently focused on leveling up, this seemed like a lucky encounter. Lucian felt confident in his new class's abilities, and he didn't even need to rely on any items to deal with these 2 players, especially since they were not even level 100. Hey, dude, it's not our fault, okay? You should have teamed up with some players as a low-level player. You're prone to getting hunted by us humanoids, the guy said, his lance glowing as he approached Lucian, who watched silently. You are not talking, are you dumb? Lucian didn't reply to the taunt, waiting for the player to unleash his skill. Well, screw you then. As the player grew increasingly frustrated, he charged up his skill and hurled the lance at Lucian, aiming to deal a single point of damage to defeat him. The green lance gleamed with a blinding white light as the player hurled it towards Lucian. However, just as Lucian had anticipated the lance to hit him, the lance never reached him. Instead, a towering figure appeared abruptly in front of him, obstructing his view and intercepting the attack. Like the chapter, then consider emptying your power stones. Any and all suggestions are welcome. Drop a review for a new chapter tomorrow. 5 reviews equals 1 chapter tomorrow early in the morning. 8 comments 0 vote. Touch me. The lance struck the newly arrived figure dead on, causing a burst of light and fiery dust to envelop it completely. Another PKer. Lucian took a step back, his guard up, as he wondered if another player killer had shown up. When the figure was finally revealed, Lucian was a bit surprised to see a player dressed in shining platinum white armor with a helmet obscuring his face. He held a silver shield that blocked the attack, and a crimson red and gold cape draped over his left shoulder. As soon as the attack animation finished, the new player turned his gaze toward Lucian. Are you all right? Did you take any damage? The player asked, and a visual effect appeared beside him, proclaiming, "Justice has arrived." While big red words appeared behind his back before quickly disappearing. What kind of idiot is that? He looks like a creep. Let's get away from him, Masao. No, I'm killing that vampire. It's the last one I need. And that player is only level 63, he can't do anything to us. The two players talked among themselves as Lucian looked at the new player who had arrived. Are they trying to PK you, buddy? Asked the hero in shining armor, with his red cape waving behind him. Well, duh, what do you think they were doing with 2 humanoids and 1 heteromorph among them? Lucian said with sarcasm as he looked at the player's profile. Touch me, heteromorphic, race, insectoid, level 63, HP 63, MP 32. Looking at the player's level, Lucian assumed he had been playing the game for longer than him, at least. Don't worry, my friend. I'll make sure justice is served on your plate, said the shining player as he turned around and looked at the 2 humanoid players. Are you sure you can deal with them? Lucian asked, looking at the player's confident demeanor. Even he felt a little dazed because the player's confidence was shining through, even without armor, just through his voice. Yep, no problem, watch me, said Touch Me as he jumped towards the 2 bickering players without giving any notice. Shield bash. His shield shone golden as he glided through the wind and landed right where the players were. TCH. The warrior player quickly backed away as he sensed the incoming attack, but the mage girl was caught off guard and took the brunt of the skill head-on. 6. Touch Me was about to follow up with a sword attack to stack more damage on the magician, however, she suddenly activated dimensional move and vanished, retreating behind the lancer player. The lancer, wielding his lance, lunged forward and activated a skill. Eat this, bitch, piercing lance. The player's green lance glowed blue as he lunged it towards Touch Me, expecting it to connect. However, he was surprised to see Touch Me effortlessly dodge it by moving back with his foot. In response, Touch Me lunged forward, this time wielding his silver sword, and slashed it towards the player. 5. Unexpectedly, the player took much more damage than he expected and became fearful of Touch Me's attack power. He attempted to back down, but Touch Me didn't let him escape. Touch Me used a recently learned magical spell that complemented his build. He shouted, "Where are you going? Come here, loop-sided duel." The magician attempted to use teleportation on her friend, but she couldn't as she saw the effects of the loop-sided duel taking place in her interface. TCH. Buy me some time, I'll cast some 10th tier spell, the mage shouted towards her friend. This guy has too good reflexes, I can't buy too much time, the player said as he engaged Touch Me, who was dealing him minor damage with each attack, albeit in lower quantity. TCH. I'm doing my best. The female mage player immediately brought out her hotkeys as she chose the most optimal spells and started to cast them. However, before she knew it, she suddenly saw a new notification before her eyes. 10. You have been inflicted with frostbite. -10. What the hell? When she turned around, she was greeted by the player they were going to PK. Lucian stood behind her and swung the blue crystalline dagger he was holding towards her one last time. You little bitch, she cursed in frustration as she pressed her teleportation spell hotkey. However, she found that she was unable to teleport. 5. When she checked her hotkey again, she noticed that it was grayed out. What did you do? She shouted as she tried to run away, but Lucian was too fast, instantly appearing behind her and swinging the dagger once again. 5. It's just a simple trick, Lucian muttered, and that was the last thing she heard before she found herself dead. -10. You have lost all your HP. You have died. The player vanished into thin particles as she lost all her HP. Lucian observed his express bar and was surprised to see a series of notifications on his interface. You have been penalized for killing a humanoid character. Due to your job class, your penalty has been revoked. The players who attacked you have been penalized. Lucian was surprised by the turn of events. He hadn't expected his penalty, which included negative karma and restrictions on entering cities, to be revoked. Instead, it had been placed on the players who had attacked him. This turn of events was certainly unexpected. With a sense of amusement, Lucian observed the Platinum Knight battling the other Lancer player. Damn you, basta, the Lance Warrior shouted as he swung his lance with all his energy at Touch Me. However, he wasn't able to finish his attack or words as Touch Me beat him to it. Kids shouldn't be cursing around. Be a good boy now. Touch Me scolded as he swung his silver knightly one-handed sword towards him and immediately cleaved the player in half, turning the entire player into data as it started to vanish. Lucian found himself rather impressed by this player. Not only did he possess great reflexes, which Lucian admired, but he also had a finely min-maxed build that he utilized exceptionally well, thanks to his excellent reflexes. Truth be told, Lucian felt a touch of envy toward this individual. Lucian observed as Touch Me sheathed his sword and approached him, expressing his surprise. Oh, you've also finished up. I honestly didn't expect a newbie to have such a great gaming mind. Lucian replied, shaking Touch Me's offered hand. I also didn't expect to encounter a player with such incredible reflexes, and you're my first heteromorphic player I've met. My name is Touch Me. What about you? I can't see anything but your race, which is pretty weird, Touch Me said as he shook Lucian's hand, looking at him suspiciously. Well, I have my reasons for that. Anyway, my name is Lucian Aeternus. You can just call me Lucian. Lucian decided to introduce himself with his first real name and a made-up last name he came up with. Well, Lucian, it's a pleasure to meet you. Now, why am I the first heteromorph you've encountered? Have humanoid players been harassing you with spawn killing? Do you need any help? Hearing Touch Me's enthusiastic questions, Lucian found them a bit too straightforward for his liking. Well, it's not because of bullying from humanoid players that I haven't met many heteromorphic players. I've been playing solo, Lucian explained. Oh, you're going solo? That's not the best decision for a beginner. As a newbie, you should consider joining parties and leveling up before going solo. What Touch Me said made perfect sense. For a regular player, teaming up with others at the start was a wiser choice, as it lowered the risk of getting attacked by humanoid players. Plus, parties offered various benefits like faster leveling through challenging bosses, party bonuses, and more. However, for Lucian, these considerations were irrelevant since he could achieve everything he needed through cash shop items. Haha, well, I didn't have any difficulties, and I would have been able to deal with those players too, even if you hadn't shown up, Lucian said confidently, giving a small chuckle. Haha, you sure are confident, my friend. Touch Me laughed as he praised Lucian, which made Lucian also giggle a little. The two players continued to talk a lot as they made their way through the Ignis Platinum Forest, out into the safe zone. Their conversation was rather pleasant to Lucian, as it was the first time he was having a discussion with another player in the game. The first encounter with players can't be counted, because they were just trying to PK him. It was really nice talking to you, Touch Messin, Lucian said, as during their conversation, he learned that Touch Me was older than him, so he wanted to show basic respect, following the customs he knew from Japan. You too, Lucy, haha. Touch Me giggled as he made a joke about Lucian's name. Lucian could only scratch his cheek and feel a little embarrassed. When Touch Me sent him a friend request, he discovered his name, which made Touch Me laugh. He never thought he'd see anyone with that name. Stop making fun of my name. Like your name is any good, touch me. What does that even mean? Do you want people to touch you? Are you some kind of weird pervert? Lucian said as he used a disgusted emoticon before his face to show his reaction. No, I'm not some kind of exhibitionist. My name, touch me, indicates that no one can touch me. That's why touch me, it's a challenge to all who want to defeat me, said touch me with such confidence that made Lucian wonder just what does this guy eat for breakfast to have so much confidence and energy in himself. You are weird, Lucian said, giggling. Says the one with the name Lucy. Hey, my name wasn't available, okay. That's why I chose it. Lucian and Touch Me continued to bicker as they finally arrived at the edge of the forest next to the safe zone. Well, it's about time to log out for me, Lucian said as he looked at the time, which was 9:50. He knew for certain that he was not going to have a pleasant time with his maid, who would reprimand him for not eating his medicines and food on time. Yeah, well, I'll play for a while before logging out. My wife will be waiting for me, Touch Me replied with a grin emoticon. Hearing Touch Me's words, Lucian showed a shocked emoji beside his virtual face as he asked, "You are married?" Haha, not to brag, but I have a beautiful wife. And we are planning to have a child too, said Touch Me, crossing his arms and displaying a proud expression through the emoticon. Ag, I get the normie energy from you. No wonder, you are the protagonist, said Lucian, pointing at him. Haha, so do you want to party up, Lucy? Touch Me asked. Lucian considered the option, however. I think I'll refuse for now. I have a lot of leveling up to do, and besides, I'm leveling up for the world tournament that's going to happen in a month. Lucian mentioned that he had 2 reasons for leveling up before, one minor and one major, the major reason being the world tournament scheduled in a few months. Really, I'm also planning to participate in the world tournament, Touch Me said as he approached Lucian. However, to enter the world tournament, you need to be at least level 90. I understand, Touch Messin. That's why I'm power leveling, grinding through story quests to level up quickly, Lucian explained as he created some distance between them. Touch Me was an incredibly energetic guy, and Lucian needed some space. I see, no wonder. I'm doing the same, but I would love to have a party, Touch Me replied. Well, maybe after I win the world championship, then we can think about it, Lucian said as he opened his menu and tapped on the logout option. Do you want to log out? Confirm. We're already in each other's friend list. I'll inform you if I have any plans for a party after the world championship. Maybe then we can have a match. Good luck, and you should also level up. Yes, no. With that, Lucian pressed yes, and vanished, logging out of the game. Left behind was the shining knight, his red cape fluttering through the digital, burning wind of the forest. Looks like Justice isn't able to create a party yet, Touch Me muttered to himself. He decided to return to his home world, Alfheim. However, before he could do that, he noticed some players chasing after what appeared to be a heteromorphic skeleton player. Looks like justice needs to be served once again, Touch Me declared, as he ran straight towards the group of players. This moment would mark the beginning of the 9-zone goal. 2,000 words. That's a lot, don't you think? I deserve a reward. Your power stones equals my rewards. Also, guys, I would appreciate every comment you guys do. So feel free to criticize anything you don't like. Drop a review, please.